Hello, I'm Moira Alderson with the BBC News. The US National Security Advisor, Jake Sullivan, has urged Russia not to exploit the current energy crisis. Russia is the biggest supplier of gas to the European Union, and it's been accused of failing to respond to the increasing demand for power in Europe. Mr. Sullivan said Moscow must not manipulate the situation.
We've long been concerned about Russia using energy as a tool of coercion and a political weapon. We've seen it happen before, and we could see it happen again. I think it would be a mistake for Russia to try to exploit this. I think that would ultimately backfire on them, and I believe that they should respond to the market demands for increased energy supplies to Europe.
A day ago, the price of gas soared to record highs but calmed down when President Putin said Russia was willing to boost deliveries to Europe. US senators have agreed to extend the country's debt ceiling after the Republicans agreed to drop their opposition to the increase. The ceiling, the limit on how much the US government can borrow, was due to be reached in less than 2 weeks. Michelle Fleury reports.
Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer said Congress had reached a deal to extend the debt ceiling until early December. But it kicks the can down the road. Congress will have to address the issue near the deadline to avert a government shutdown, creating a headache right around the holidays. The agreement comes less than 2 weeks before October 18th, the day the US Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen warned was the deadline to prevent the first ever US default. Failure by America to repay its bills would severely hurt the country's credit rating, plunge the global financial system into turmoil, and possibly lead to a self-inflicted recession.
A Saudi-led takeover of the English Premier League club Newcastle United has gone through in a controversial deal worth more than $400 million. Here's Dan Rowan.
Supporters gathered at St James's Park tonight after news that a Saudi-led takeover of the club was finally complete. With the country's sovereign wealth fund now owning 80% of the club, it's been catapulted to the very top of football's rich list and brings to an end the turbulent 14-year reign of the retail tycoon Mike Ashley. The Premier League approved the deal after receiving assurances that the Saudi state would not interfere with the running of the club, and a dispute over alleged Saudi TV piracy has also been resolved. But critics say this is the latest example of Saudi Arabia using sport to deflect scrutiny of its poor human rights record.
Dan Rowan reporting. Poland's Constitutional Court has ruled that Polish law trumps European Union law, undermining one of the bloc's core principles. The court decided that 2 articles of the EU's bedrock treaty were incompatible with the Polish constitution. The European Commission said it would use its powers to safeguard the uniform application and integrity of EU law. World News from the BBC. The head of the UN has warned that allowing huge inequalities in the global supply of coronavirus vaccines is both immoral and stupid. Launching a new strategy, Antonio Guterres said failing to boost vaccination rates in poor countries put everyone at risk, with another deadly variant likely to emerge. Ireland has agreed to relinquish one of its key investment incentives, a low corporate tax rate of 12.5% on large multinational companies. The move is seen as a major step towards harmonising global taxes on companies such as Google, Amazon, Facebook and Apple. Protesters have gathered outside the headquarters of the governing Austrian People's Party in Vienna, calling for the resignation of Chancellor Sebastian Kurz. He's being investigated over the party's alleged attempt to bribe a newspaper group to publish favourable opinion polls. Mr. Kurz denies wrongdoing. Officials in Balochistan in western Pakistan say they now think 15 people were killed in an earthquake early on Thursday, slightly fewer than previously thought. More than 100 homes were damaged. Harnai district was the worst hit, but officials say they're trying to get reports from more remote areas. An international team of scientists are trying to figure out why rock samples brought back from China's Chang'e 5 moon mission are much more recent than they'd anticipated. Jonathan Amos explains.
The analysis of the samples by Beijing scientists with international collaborators reveals the rock to be relatively young. It was erupted by a volcano on the moon just over 1.9 billion years ago. This has the research team wondering how a small body like the moon could have retained enough heat to be producing lavas so long after its formation, almost 4.5 billion years ago. One idea is that tidal interactions with Earth stretched and flexed the moon, melting its interior and keeping its volcanoes active beyond a time when ordinarily they should have become extinct.
That's the latest. BBC News.